Hello and welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on where in the world you're joining us from today. We are so excited to have you for our latest global webinar, India Insights and Global Legislation. My name is Casey Angel, and I'm the Vice President here at the Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors. Today, you'll be hearing from some of the most insightful in our industry, highlighting the global nature of our business as they represent both the National Association of Realtors in the United States, as well as the National Association of Realtors India. Webinars like this have been born out of amazing partnerships developed with like-minded organizations from across the world. Just this past November in San Francisco, staff and leaders from the Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors sat down to sign professional agreements or memorandums of understanding with our official ambassador association, the National Association of Realtors India, and our keynote speakers today. Collaboration, ingenuity, and inspiration have all been hallmarks of our international agreements. These partnerships deepen the ties we have with our great friends around the world who provide services in the same core belief that our association is built on, that the real estate industry is truly a business beyond borders. Throughout an unprecedented 2020, the dedication to international real estate has been more evident than ever. Partnerships with economic development groups, commercial real estate entities, government officials, and experts spanning the field have helped our realtor members stay connected, innovative, and productive. From CIPS designation classes to meetings about the inner workings of global real estate, all of these worldwide resources would not be possible if it weren't for our amazing global advisory group and sponsors. A special thank you goes out to our 2020 Global Advisory Chair, Matt Vance, Vice Chair Mark Parker, and Global Ambassadors Brett Bushnell, Kojo Kuso, and Scotty Hunley, along with our executive team here in Raleigh, led by President Louis Grubbs, Brett Bushnell, Leslie Williams, and Renee Smith, along with our CEO, Andrew Sims. Today, we are joined by our year-long gold sponsor and fantastic friend to our Global Advisory Group, Alan Fluke of KB Home. Alan, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit about what KB Home is doing here?
Hey, I really appreciate being a sponsor. This has been a wonderful opportunity, and I'm so thankful to be able to talk to people both in the United States and across the world. As everyone knows from recent information, I guess statistics, July had a 14% increase over June as far as new home sales go, and a 36% increase year over year. So obviously the pandemic has done little to affect our industry, and that's a great signal for things to come. Actually, KB is targeted to make sure that we can move forward with this industry. We are the 5th largest builder in the country. And one of very few that do many things such as Energy Star certify homes. We have construction in 9 states and 40 major markets across the country, and from energy-wise with Energy Star saving and WaterSense for water savings, we're really hitting the environment very hard with trying to make as many savings as we can possible to put a footprint on our environment that is so little at this point. So we're honored to be able to do that. For realtors specifically who are in Raleigh, KB continues to expand. We've got 3 new markets that we're opening up in this year in 2020 and 5 new markets in 2021. So I look forward to be able to have the opportunity to work with each and every one of you as we move forward into the next year and as we continue to identify how we can approach this pandemic collectively as an industry. So thank you, Casey. I appreciate being here.
Well, thank you so much. Like I said, a fantastic year-long sponsor of KB Home. Getting to hear from Alan each time that we have these global webinars has been truly fantastic for myself as well as everybody in the audience. So thank you again. Without you, these global resources simply would not be possible.
Wonderful.
Now, our first speaker today is Russell Riggs, the Senior Regulatory Representative for the National Association of Realtors. For over 15 years, Russell has engaged Congress and federal regulatory agencies such as the EPA and FEMA on issues impacting the resort real estate community, as well as issues related to private property rights, the environment, national resources, energy, land use, and insurance. Prior to his position at NAR, Russell held positions in the Department of Energy, Council of State Governments, National Governors Association, and the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. Russell holds a bachelor's degree in political science from Virginia Commonwealth University, a master's in public policy from Tufts University, and a master's in public administration from New York University. He currently lives in Falls Church, Virginia with his wife and 2 children. Russell, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Casey. I appreciate it. Can you see and hear me okay?
Perfect.
Well, let's go ahead and advance the slides, and thank you for the invitation. You know, we were supposed to do this a year ago, actually
right.
in person. So I'm really happy to be able to do this virtually. You know, I think this technology has gone a long way, and I've done lots of these, and I think it's really exciting that we're still able to do these kinds of activities and events, provide good information for NAR members, even when I'm sitting in my house. So I think it's a fantastic opportunity. Well, there are 2 things that Casey wanted me to talk about today, and I'm going to kind of split half and half my time for this. You know, Washington, D.C. has been as busy as ever. Since really the lockdown in March, when a lot of things shut down, Congress kept working very hard, as you know, and they did at least 3 different iterations of a COVID-19 recovery response legislation. I'm not going to go through that so much now, but I really want to talk about what happens in the next phase. And then I want to talk a little bit about all the visa issues that have been really at the forefront over the past 3 to 4 months of really at the forefront of lots of discussions related to immigration and visa. Well, I just want to talk about, there are really 4 buckets that the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act covered. The first was the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. And as you know, that is a state-run program for self-employed and independent contractors. And really, it's basically the way that you are receiving, if you're doing it, you are receiving unemployment assistance from the government. And it was based on 2019 tax returns. There was 39 weeks of assistance if needed through December. And then remember, they tacked on an additional $600 per week through July 31st of this year. Now, as you know, that has now ended. Now, the unemployment assistance is still continuing. It's just that extra $600 that has now stopped flowing and will be an issue going forward in the fall. The second bucket of assistance was the Payroll Protection Program, or otherwise known as the PPP program. This is an SBA loan for payroll costs, rents, and utilities. Now, the really important part is initially the loan was forgivable if 75% of employees were retained. If you're able to keep employees on, that loan actually was forgivable and basically became a grant. That 75% threshold was changed and lowered to 50%. And more money was provided to the PPP and extended to August 8th. Now, there are still additional monies that remains in the PPP program. The first tranche was exhausted. They put additional monies in, and now it looks like that is also going to be an important part of the fall discussions. The third kind of bucket of assistance is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. And again, this is just a straight loan from the Small Business Administration for paid sick leave to employees, maintaining payroll, rent and mortgage payments, and repaying debt. And it provides an emergency advance of up to $10,000, which is forgivable debt. And again, this program is still ongoing. There are still funds available if someone needs to dip into this Economic Injury Disaster Loan Program. And finally, the fourth area of assistance was just a check cut by the federal government to lots of taxpayers. Basically, if you fell below an income threshold, you received a cash payment. $1,200 per adult plus $500 for each child under 17. What's happening now? Basically, discussions are happening now. There's a lot of, Congress is out of session right now. They're at home, but staff are still talking about how to address this. This is going to be the first thing they turn to in September of 2020 when they come back. And there are really four areas that NAR is going to focus on. Are areas of priority for when they come back and when they start moving forward on a phase 4 coronavirus recovery response bill. Housing security, market stability, business permanency, and community durability. But what does all that mean? That's a mouthful, I know. Housing security. We want to, first of all, the very first thing we need to do is extend all these federal stimulus measures, the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the PPP program, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. We need to make sure that those are all, they are still ongoing, they are robustly funded, and we also want to make sure that there is an additional taxpayer check, because all of these programs are designed to keep small businesses propped up during this pandemic. And as you know, small business, like NAR members and realtors, are absolutely the foundation of the U.S. economy. So we have to make sure they are solid going forward, so they can take advantage of any economic opportunity. We also want to make sure that we allow the GSEs and the VA to offer forbearance to mortgage holders. Another really critical part of this. We want to make sure that people are not getting evicted if they can't pay their mortgage. And we want to make sure that the GSEs and the VA have resources to be able to do that. We also want to make sure that we are helping renter households with assistance paid directly to housing providers and not have any middle person in there getting the money and then doling it out. We want to make sure that people who cannot pay their rent or their mortgage, for that matter, through no fault of their own, are not penalized. We want to make sure the market is stable. We want to clarify that the CARES Act doesn't, if you're in this a forbearance situation, or you can't pay your mortgage, or you can't pay your rent, we want to make sure that does not have a negative impact on your credit score, because the fact is, this was not something that you had any control over if you're trying to pay your rent or you're trying to pay your mortgage. And we want to make sure that we maintain access to affordable credit. Business permanency. We want to make sure that, and this is really important, create liability protections and extend those liability protections to independent contractors. Now, this is really critical. We want to make sure that people aren't being sued if, for example, they're hosting an open house and then someone later, 2 days later, claims they got COVID, they contracted COVID, may have been at the open house, could have been somewhere else, and they start suing everyone. We want to make sure that there is a cap and that there are some reasonable protections available for business people, and make sure that is extended to independent contractors. This is the next point, may be a little controversial. We want to forgive all the SBA loans under $150,000, specifically the Economic Injury Disaster Loan and the PPP. That is, these loans, if you weren't able to turn it into a grant by keeping your employees on for whatever reason, and you're still having to pay this back, will be a long-term drain on small businesses for the foreseeable future. So it may be helpful if those are forgiven under $150,000. We want to make sure that commercial real estate has better access to federal loan programs. I think that's, I think a lot of times commercial real estate gets a little lost in the discussion of what's happening and the impacts of the pandemic and the economic recession on residential. I think commercial gets lost a little bit. So we want to make sure that commercial real estate is part of that discussion. We want to enact nationwide remote notarization. Now, I have been just astounded by the adaptability of NAR members nationwide to address and adapt to this pandemic and the recession. And one of the amazing things is, to the extent to which I think we've all realized now, you can buy property sight unseen without ever actually physically going to that property. You can do every part of the transaction online. There is one little choke point, which is having documents notarized. Now, some states are doing better than others. We think there's legislation right in Congress right now that we are pushing to make this a nationwide requirement that everyone should just be able to have their documents notarized online, and we can be done with that. Community durability. We want to make sure that state and local governments have adequate resources so they're not falling into the economic abyss and then turning to state and local property taxes to make up their budget shortfalls. So we want to make sure that state and local governments have sufficient resources that they're not turning new taxes to make up that budget. And that's going to be a real problem going forward. And finally, we want to make sure that everyone has broadband. Again, that goes back to the ability of people to do all of their transactions online. Now, I was just in a rural, fairly remote area of Virginia, and the broadband was not great. There were some times when I had it fine, other times I couldn't get access. Now, for me, during that time, I was happy with that. But if you're trying to do business, if you're trying to sell property, do a real estate transaction, or if you're a buyer, if you're just trying to figure out how you can buy a property, or if you have, you want your kids to be able to go to school properly. Broadband access is becoming more and more critical the more we all are remote working. And that is just going to be a fact for the future. So we need to really, really step up and make sure that our broadband is the best we can get and that it's accessible everywhere. So now I wanted to turn to the visa issues. This is a visa issues update, and there are a lot of visas, separate visas that NAR and the realtors are very interested in making sure that they are robust and operational. And I'm just going to go through a few of these. There may be others, but I know that these are the ones that have been identified by the NAR's Global and Business Affairs Committee and by our NAR's Resort and Second Home Committee as ones that they are particularly interested and want to see work effectively. The first one is the EB-5 investor visa. Well, what is this particular visa? Well, this is the EB-5 visa in exchange for investing in a new U.S. business, $900,000 minimum investment, and creating at least 10 jobs. Foreign investors are placed on a path to citizenship. Now, that's a pretty high bar. So you have to invest $900,000 at the minimum in a U.S. business, and you have to create at least 10 jobs. And you have to show that you've created these jobs. Only then can you begin that path to citizenship. NAR supports this EB-5 investor visa because these investments stimulate economic development, create jobs, and it's great for property ownership because people who now have jobs, these 10 jobs, are now going to want to buy a house or buy property. Now, this is subject to authorization by Congress on a periodic basis. Generally, it's done year by year. In the past, it hasn't been a problem. People Congress authorizes this program. It hasn't been a problem. The past 4 or 5 years, it has been a problem. Given the problems with the budget and getting the budget through and getting all these other programmatic authorizations through Congress, it's kind of been a pawn, along with a lot of other programs, not just this one, but we have to go through this every year. Now this program was set to expire in September of 2020, along with a lot of other programs like the National Flood Insurance Program. So we have to make sure that, just like that one, we have to make sure that this is also authorized after September of 2020. There have been some recent regulations that would increase the minimum investment and increase the amount of oversight that is provided over the EB-5 investor visa program. There's also legislation that would reform the program called the EB-5 Reform and Integrity Act. And we support any legislation and regulations that are going to make the program more transparent and will make the program work more efficiently and better. But we want to make sure that we understand where the money is coming from and how it's being used by the regional investment centers. So we absolutely support reforms to this program to make it more transparent and understand where the money is coming from and where it's going. Let's turn to the H-2B temporary worker visa program. Well, what is this one? The H-2B program allows U.S. employers to hire workers to fill temporary, usually 6 months, but that can vary, non-agricultural jobs in the U.S. And we're really talking about for basically 6 months, a person comes, does their job, and then they leave. So it's not really, and this is another issue with some of these visa programs. They get caught up as an immigration program. The H-2B program is absolutely not an immigration program. It is a temporary worker program. Folks come here, do their job, then they go back home. Why does NAR support this? Because resort areas and housing developments use these visas to hire lifeguards, waiters. Ski resorts use them for ski lift operators. And these people add value to these communities and these properties. They keep, for example, resort communities. These are the people that do the landscaping, keep everything running on time, operate the shuttles from one facility to the other, wait staff, lifeguards, etc. They really are the heartbeat of a lot of these resort communities. So at this point, there's really no comprehensive reform bill introduced in Congress. This is a super popular visa program. There are 66,000 of these visas each year made available for people to come and do their work. And each year, the DHS asks for and receives approval from Congress to add an additional number of visas. This year, they added an additional 35,000 visas for 2020. And again, those visas went very quickly. And it's also important to note that employers who use this H-2B visa have to go through a very elaborate, complicated long process to make sure that they have tried to hire an American worker to fill this job. Only then can they hire an H-2B, use an H-2B visa program. Now, this program, and I'll get into this at the very end, this program, the H-2B program, has been suspended by a recent executive order. And I'll get into that executive order at the end. The H-1B Specialty Occupations Visa. What is this visa? This visa applies to people who wish to perform services in a specialized occupation, such as technology or medical fields. Well, we support this, and this generally goes along with our support of all these different visa programs. All of these programs we support it because these visas stimulate economic development, job creation, and property ownership. In addition, these visa holders purchase property because they're here for a longer period of time. And again, this H-1B Specialty Occupations Visa was also suspended under the executive order. The F-1 Student Visa. This was in the news quite a bit about a month ago. This visa applies to students who wish to study in the U.S., and these students must maintain a full course of study, at least 4 courses per semester. NAR supports this visa because these visa holders rent and buy property in which to live and study, especially in areas around educational institutions. For example, Boston. Think about all the colleges and universities that are located in Boston. Think about all the students, and then think about all the foreign students who come to Boston. Rent, buy property, their parents buy property for investment and have a place for them to come when they want to visit their student. And all the other tangential economic stimulus they provide through food and books and what have you. This one was initially it was suspended, but they got a lot of pushback from people, and now it is currently operational. So let's turn to this White House executive order. The executive order went into effect on June 24th. This executive order suspends a variety of visa categories, including H-1B visas, H-2B, L visas, which restricts foreigners transferring to the U.S. of their multinational companies, and finally the J-1 visa, which restricts people participating in cultural and work exchanges. Now, there are some key exceptions to this executive order. It does not affect immigrants already in the U.S., existing visa holders, temporary workers in food production, healthcare workers, and researchers fighting COVID-19. So, it does suspend the program, but a lot of these folks were already in the country, already had their visa, already conducting for example, their H-2B job. So they're fine. They're not going to be thrown out because of that. But it's really more an issue of visa holders or these visa programs going forward. They'll be suspended. So, we're still looking at ways to educate everyone in Washington, D.C. about the values and benefits of these various visas. We're looking at ways to make sure that they are held accountable and they are transparent in terms of what they do and the kinds of jobs. We want to make sure that no American is being not hired because of these visas, that the employers went through all the appropriate processes and procedures to try to hire American before hiring someone with the visa. So right now, I think it's really an educational process, and we're trying to do that as much as we can. And I think I'm at the end of my time. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No, thank you, Russell. That was fantastic. Great information. Like you said, stick around after all of our speakers. We're going to have a quick question and answer forum. So if you'd like, at any time, you can pop in those questions here in our Zoom chat. I believe there's a Q&A feature in there as well. And now leading into our next set of speakers, we're actually going to watch a quick video introducing the Indian economy and real estate industries here shortly. Fantastic video showing not only the enormity but also the innovation coming out of such a fantastic country. And now our next speaker heads up the largest trade association in India, Mr. Sumanth Reddy. Sumanth currently serves as president of NAR-India and has held numerous roles with the organization that represents 45 local associations and over 50,000 real estate professionals throughout the country. A real estate professional with over 20 years of experience in the industry, he specializes in value-driven opportunities with expertise in structured and alternative real estate investments. His passion to create and build organizations has brought a significant difference and added value to markets and its stakeholders. We are so thankful to have him here to speak with us about NAR India. Mr. Sumanth Reddy, thank you.
Thank you, Casey, for that wonderful introduction. Thank you, Raleigh, for having us here on the webinar. A big namaste from India to everyone. It's such a pleasure to join all of you here. And I sincerely appreciate our partnership with Raleigh Regional Association of REALTORS. And also thank you for hosting our team during the recent NAR-India convention, the NAR convention. We're really proud to have associated with a proactive association like Raleigh. And I'd like to thank Raleigh leadership and Tarun for forging this ever-growing partnership. I believe we will have a robust and mutually beneficial relationships in the year to come. NAR-India, as you know, was founded in the year 2008 with the help of NAR. Thanks to them, we also could get the name NAR. They allowed us to have the name. And since then, we have over the last decade, we have evolved to where we are today. Though we had a roller coaster ride in our ecosystem where it is still making strides towards organized relations in India. Today, we have our presence in 35 cities with over 50,000 members, and we're still growing. And hopefully, soon, I think, in the years to come, I think we will definitely be crossing that 1 lakh mark. And we have delivered over 10,000 hours of training, to our members through our conventions and education programs across the country. We recently have acquired an institute called India Institute of Real Estate to develop and deliver content to all the real estate professionals across the country, irrespective of their membership, with NAR-India. We have partnered with organizations like RACS and NICMAR and have rolled out certification programs to empower our members. Government of India also have recognized our efforts and have empowered us on the advisory board of the recently enacted RERA Act. We advise the government on the policy and things like that, as far as the transactions are concerned. We're the only realtor broker body that has been recognized by all the state governments in India. So we have been extensively lobbying with the government of India on policies influencing the growth of Indian real estate. We are the only association to have bilateral agreements with prominent industry representatives representing bodies like REDI and National Real Estate Development Council. We are planning to launch a property portal to support our member business. We have recently, I think you will be knowing that we have recently launched a comprehensive research report on Indian real estate market. So we have taken a more inclusive, approach in the recent past to strengthen our footprint in real estate across the country. During the last couple of years, thanks to Tarun, we've been doing fantastically well. We've been reaching out to a lot of partners, across the world. And Raleigh is, thanks to him, we have Raleigh. We partnered with Raleigh, and here we are today. We've been at NAR-India. We have laid out a strong blueprint to create more value to the members, not just for the members of NAR-India, but to all the stakeholders in India. We have recently, we're about to introduce international membership for the from NAR-India, so that our members can connect and realtors from across the world can also do business through our members in India. And with progressive leaders like Tarun in waiting, we are confident that we'll be creating more value for our partners and stakeholders. And thank you, Raleigh, once again for giving me the opportunity and for patiently hearing me out. Thank you.
So thank you so much. Our next speaker is a wonderful friend to myself and a wonderful friend to our association, Mr. Tarun Bhatia, President-elect of NAR-India. Tarun has held a number of leadership positions within NAR-India over the past several years, including chairman of multiple committees and treasurer before being named president-elect in 2019. Tarun works as a partner at MS Shalou Agencies, a real estate consultant firm in existence since 1980. With a timeline of more than 28 years experience in the industry, he enjoys the trust of his clients, developers, and fellow realtors. As a realtor consultant, he specializes in both residential and commercial projects, successfully consulting for projects ranging from residential, commercial offices, commercial retail, hospitality, warehousing, logistics, and the education sector. Over the years, his firm has received a number of awards from these developers. A truly fantastic professional. Thank you so much for joining us, Tarun.
Thank you, Casey. It's such a pleasure to be on this platform with our friend from Raleigh. I can't thank you enough for the partnership what we have between Raleigh and NAR-India. A big thanks to Lewis, Rennie, Brett, Leslie, Andrews, and obviously you and Susan. Thank you so much. And thank you for the wonderful introduction. And thanks, Sumanth and Russell, for your thoughts. Today, I would like to show a presentation on the Indian real estate sector. Today, I'll be covering the India and the Indian economy, why one should invest in India, the Indian real estate sector, the Real Estate Regulatory Act 2016, which changed the Indian real estate industry, the real estate transaction process in India. It is not as simple as in the US. Then relations between India and the US, non-resident Indians and persons of Indian origin, and a brief about NAR-India, which already Sumanth has covered. So I'll just see what I can cover in that. So India is officially the Republic of India. It's in South Asia. It is the seventh largest country with a total area of 3.28 million square kilometers. It's a secular federal republic governed in a democratic parliamentary system. India's population grew from 361 million in 1951 to nearly 1.33 billion in 2018. Our next census is 2021, and maybe we'll be 1.4 billion by then. We comprise of 28 states and 7 union territories and a national capital territory region. And these states and the union territories are further subdivided into districts and smaller administrative divisions. From being a comparatively destitute country in 1951, India has become a fast-growing major economy. And the economy of India is characterized as a developing market economy. It is the world's fifth largest economy by nominal GDP and the third largest by purchasing power parity. Since the start of the 21st century, our annual average GDP growth has been 6 to 7%. And from 2014 to 2018, India was the world's fastest growing major economy, surpassing even China. Historically, India was the largest economy in the world for most of the two millennia, from the first until the 19th century. Our estimated GDP numbers are $3.2 trillion in nominal for the year 2020 and $11.321 trillion in purchasing power parity. So why should one invest in India? India is one of the world's fastest growing economies. The FDI inflows increased by 37% since the launch of Make in India initiative. Leading investors ranked India as the most attractive market. We have the largest youth population in the world, hopefully by 2021. We'll be the largest supplier of universities graduates in the world by 2021 again. And India has the largest group of scientists and technicians in the world. Reason 3 is the Indian infrastructure story. Over the next 3 decades, more than 350 million Indians will move into cities. Over the next 2 decades, more than $1.5 trillion investments have been planned for infrastructure, mostly into highways, railways, ports, airports, industrial corridors, and smart cities. We have a huge domestic market. Rising affluence is the biggest driver of increasing consumption in India. India's consumer story will be led by its 129 million urban mass consumers and private consumption to be 4 times in the next 5 years. Rising global competitiveness. We were not really known for competitiveness, but India has jumped 79 positions from 2014 to 2019 in World Bank Ease of Doing Business. And India ranked 68th on the Global Competitive Index 2018-19. 95% of the 1.3 billion Indians are covered under Aadhaar scheme, one of the world's largest social security programs. The PM Jan Dhan Yojana, a formalization of savings scheme under which 312 million bank accounts have been opened, with savings amounting to $11.6 billion, and goods and services tax, the biggest tax reform since independence. It pays for a common national market. The reason number 6 is the rising entrepreneurship in India, the Startup India program. It is the world's third largest startup ecosystem. 77 districts have at least one startup, and 29,000 plus startups recognized by the Government of India. Government of India helps in self-certification, income tax exemptions, easy winding up of companies, patent application and IPR protection, and easier public procurement norms. Plus the rising economic influence. The center of global maritime trade to move from the Pacific to the Indian Ocean. India and China will be the largest manufacturing hubs of the world by 2030, and connectivity to Central Asia and Europe via the international North-South transport corridor. I'll just come to the Indian real estate sector. India's real estate sector is officially worth nearly US $173 billion, which is 7% of the Indian GDP. The sector provides employment to nearly 25 million people. That's about 6% of total employment, second highest after agriculture. Out of which the real estate brokerage sector is about 1 million people. The sector also supports nearly 250 related industries. So we play a role of a catalyst in the growth rate of the Indian economy. The sector also contributes US $14.63 billion in taxes and duties. the Indian real estate sector will touch about $1 trillion by 2030. Retail, hospitality, and commercial real estate are also growing significantly. Sectors such as IT, ITS, retail, consulting, and e-commerce have registered high demand for office space in recent times. The residential market was showing remarkable resilience till this COVID hit us. We've been growing at about 6% over the top 8 cities recorded a growth of 6% year on year in the number of units sold. Around 0.376 million residential properties were sold in 52 cities in 2019, amounting to nearly $33 billion. Mumbai topped the list, followed by Delhi NCR. The Indian office absorption touched historical highs in 2019. The top 18 cities had a combined inventory of 700 million square feet, out of which 87 was already occupied. Here, Bangalore leads the number with occupation of nearly 125 million square feet, followed by Chennai, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Delhi. 55% of the global outsourcing work is handled by Indian IT companies. In 2019, this was worth nearly $90 billion, mostly from the US and Europe. COVID, unlike the US, where the markets are booming, the housing market is booming. In India, has inflicted high and rising human cost. Protecting lives and allowing healthcare systems to cope have required isolation, lockdowns, and widespread closures. In fact, we've been locked down since March 25th. Now we are opening in phases. As a result of this pandemic, the global economy is projected to contract sharply by -3% in 2020, but India may fare better than the other countries. Uh, so everyone knows the effect of the pandemic on the real estate market. However, now we are coming out of the lockdown. Our home loan interest rates are at about 6.8 to 7% per annum, which is a 14-year low in India. They are not comparable to the mortgage rates in the US of 3%, but in India they were about 10 and 11%. So we have come down to 7, which is a good catalyst for incentive for people to buy their homes. We're also hoping that the non-resident Indians will come back strongly, given the current exchange rate of 76 rupees to a dollar, plus the decline of H-1B visas issued by the US government. The global manufacturers have initiated talks with Indian firms to explore the possibility of shifting a part of their supply from China to India. Apple, the world's most valuable company, may see nearly 10% of its global manufacturing move to India in the next 5 years. To tackle this COVID, like the US, the Indian government has also announced several measures. The RBI, which is our central bank, has announced policies to support the economy. Interest rates were reduced. Repo rates and reverse repo rates were also reduced. The RBI also gave another stimulus by reducing the repo rate from 4% to 3.35%, putting more money in the hands of people. The Indian government has also announced a stimulus package of $2.67 billion to help the Indian economy. I'll just briefly cover the Real Estate Regulatory Act. We didn't have a regulatory act in India before 2016, and it was a highly irregulated market. But India introduced the RERA Act in 2016. It seeks to protect the interest of home buyers and also boost investments in the real estate sector. The Act establishes an authority in every state for regulation of the sector. The most positive aspect of this act is that it provides a unified legal regime for the purchase of real estate and seeks to standardize the practice across the country. Under this act, every project has to be registered. Every ongoing project after 2017 May has to be registered. Every new project has to be registered unless otherwise you can't sell that project. Periodical updates are to be given. A separate bank account have to be opened for every project, and 70% of the money has to go in the project development. Timely completion and fair agreement to sell have been proposed. Earlier they were missing in the Indian sector. Only the RERA registered real estate agents can facilitate sales and purchase of properties. Someone who's not registered cannot indulge in this business. The authority shall grant a single registration to the agent for the entire state, and we also need to maintain and preserve such books of accounts, record and document as may be prescribed. Apart from registration, to ensure that the property, we have to follow other compliances that we cannot deal in any non-debtor registered project. Uh, we can't provide any false promise or misleading commitment to the clients. We can't involve in any kind of malpractices, and there are heavy penalties if we don't follow the law. I'll just cover the real estate transaction process in India. First of all, find a realtor. Please reach out to NAR India. We have access to over 50,000 agents in India. As Sumanth said earlier, many of our members are RERA registered. Find a property. There is no MLS service in India, but NAR India is currently working on a portal. For the moment, one can look up property through our network, that is the NAR India network, or through portals like 99 Acres, Magic Brick, etc. After identifying a property tours with the agent, you finalize the property. The negotiation happens, price and payment terms with the help of the agent. Then the legal due diligence happens, the title search happens with the help of a lawyer. In India, title insurance is not there, so you have to use a lawyer's services for legal due diligence. One makes the offer. If the offer is accepted, then the formalization of the contract and agreement to sell with the help of a lawyer and an agent. Signing of a contract agreement to sell along with completion of 10% payment of the cost of the property either to an escrow account or to the seller's bank account. Then one can take a bank loan. About 85% of the cost of the property can be funded by a bank or a housing finance company if the purchaser requires it. The loan approval is based on the title and the repayment capacity of the purchaser. Once the loan is sanctioned, you go and pay the stamp duty. The documents are prepared like sale deed, supplementary documents, possession letters, payment receipts, and there's a final inspection before the property is registered. Then you go to the local court, the concerned sub-registrar office, and you submit the documents where they are verified and the sale deed is registered. Once it is registered, the purchaser makes the balance payment to the seller, and all the original papers of the property are handed over to the bank and the possession to the purchaser. And then the change of name in the records of the concerned authorities with the help of the agent. That was just a brief. In case you have questions on that, we can come back with more details on the process. India and the US, India-US partnership has its foundation and common values, including the rule of law and democratic principles. Bilateral trade in 2018 was $142 billion, a 12.6% increase from 2017. Exports from the US were about 59 billion and imports were about 84 billion. The last year, Indian students, we were talking about F1 visas. So Indian students enrolled at US colleges and universities contributed to over $7 billion to the US economy. The total number of Indian students have more than doubled to nearly 200,000 in 2018. We cooperate. India and the US cooperate closely at multilateral organizations, including the UN, G20, Asian Regional Forum, and other forums. Indians invested $7.8 billion in prime residential real estate in the US. And in financial year 2021, a total of 13.1 billion of NRI capital is expected to enter the Indian housing industry. The US foreign direct investments in Indian stock is about 46 billion, and India's FDI in the US is about 10 billion. The non-resident, a foreign national of non-Indian origin resident cannot buy any property in India. So only NRIs, non-resident Indians can buy, or persons of Indian origin can buy property in India. Even if you want to buy jointly with an Indian, a foreigner cannot buy a movable property in India. What is a NRI? A non-resident Indian is an Indian citizen who resides in India for less than 182 days during the course of the last financial year, or who has gone out of India or who stays outside India for the purpose of employment. And a person of Indian origin is either he held an Indian passport, or he or she or their parents or grandparents were citizen of India. So with with the dollar gaining strength against rupee, a competitive marketplace with negotiations tougher than ever, and a sense of moving back to homeland, a lot of NRIs are investing in India. With thousands of international brands also looking at India, NRIs always are the first to, look at the opportunities. And we are hoping that we'll hit an all-time high of $13 billion in the next year of NRI investments. This is a tax structure. Rather than explaining it, I'll share it with Team Raleigh, which they can share with their attendees. It talks about how residential status and taxability in India. NAR India has already been covered by Sumanth, so I'll not really cover it again. Only one thing I'd like to talk about is the report which we launched, which we shared with Team Raleigh. I think they shared with their members, and we got very positive feedback from you guys. Thank you so much. This will be a quarterly report, and every time we bring it out, we'll share it with your members, Casey. One important decision which Sumanth, our president, and our secretary, actually proposed by our secretary, Mr. Sameer Arora, that let's open our membership to international brokers and realtors. Like NAR US has opened their memberships to international realtors. We want to open the membership of NAR India to international brokers and realtors. This is still proposed. It will be passed in our governing body meeting shortly, and then we can go all out for that. What are the benefits? In addition to the powerful nationwide broker realtor network, uh, the NAR India international members receive a number of valuable business tools. So your profile will come on the NAR India directory. You have access to over 50,000 Indian real estate agents, login credentials to the NAR India portal to access nationwide listings, nationwide realtor referral form with NAR India members, thereby protecting brokerage, dispute resolution mechanism if the dispute is with an NAR India member, ability to work with developers and builders in over 40 cities in the country, registration discount for our annual convention. This time, so we couldn't have a physical one. We may have a virtual one, but this is an annual affair, and hopefully after COVID, we'll start having our physical annual conventions like the NAR US. And exclusive members only social media groups on Facebook and LinkedIn. And in case anyone requires, we can handhold to set up the brokerage business in India. Apart from that, you get the membership card, you get access to our newsletters, research reports, presentations on NAR India events, library of NAR India videos, and opportunity to present your offering and services to our members. Uh, Again, discount on NAR India education courses, research on all aspects on verticals of Indian real estate, NAR India data on the real estate sector, and invitation to join our webinars and seminars. Uh, this is just a criteria that you must be a foreigner, you must not be a resident of India for this membership, and there are no voting rights with this membership. The proposed charges are $75 plus GST for the first year and $50 for renewing your memberships. So thank you very much for listening to this detailed presentation. If you have any questions, we are around. Thank you.
That's fantastic. So much fantastic information. Thank you for that. We went over a lot, and we're getting some great questions, both in Q&A as well as in the chat. So I think the first one will stick with you, Tarun, because Brett sent in, with rates around 7%, what has the inflation rate and real estate appreciation rate been running around the last year or two, since you talked about that decrease to 7%?
So the inflation is about 6 to 7% in India again, but the actual inflation is more than 10%. The parameters in our national inflation needs to be changed to reflect the true numbers. The Indian real estate market has done phenomenally well in the last 15 years or 20 years, but not so well in the last couple of years. So at the moment, even getting a 5 or 6% return, it has not happened in the last 24 months. But if you go back for 10 to 15 years, the returns have been absolutely phenomenal. Some markets would have registered more than 25% return year on year on real estate prices. Hopefully, going forward now, our economic parameters are looking good. in the next 5 to 7 years, we hope to register very, very good positive numbers in the appreciation of real estate assets.
Fantastic. Another question that came in that says, as a non-resident Indian, may I buy a property residence farmland? If not, what kind of property can I buy?
Except agricultural land, you can buy any property. You cannot, NRI cannot buy agricultural land in India. They can buy any other, they can buy apartments, condos, single family homes, multi-family homes, commercial offices, where anything they can buy.
Fantastic. A couple of just kudos, great on the international membership. A few people have sent in, they're very excited. Great news on that. The next question is for Russell. Considering there are so many changes and we're in such flux this year, especially with an election coming up, how and what is the best way for people to stay on top of the latest news when it comes to foreign visas, work visas, all of the ones that you touched on? Because I think as we leave today, something might change within the next hour or two. You never know.
Yeah, I mean, I have a problem doing that myself, keeping up on what's happening, hour by hour. I think our NAR website is a great source for all Washington, D.C. information. We continuously update that in terms of our Washington, D.C. news feed, and we continuously put new stuff up there. And whenever something relates to visa issues, I always try to update that as quickly as I can. So I would say, go to the NAR website, and we have tons of resources on there related to all the things that we're doing in Washington, D.C. on your behalf.
Fantastic. No, that's great. And then I think the last is just a comment that we need to set up an Invest in India trip where RRAR members, Raleigh regional members, can visit India and see all the great things with our colleagues over there and how they can learn more about the opportunities in India as well, which I completely agree with. We got to get through this little pandemic, and that'll be a side note at some point. We can certainly continue to work on that. But we're about 5 minutes over, which is fantastic because this was such great, powerful information from everybody. Again, thank you all so much. Just our great speakers. I want to thank our partners, KB Homes, our sponsor, as well as our three speakers that you see here today, Russell Riggs, Sumanth Reddy, Tarun Bhatia. Thank you. Again, for more information about NAR India, you can visit narindia.org. They have a robust website to be able to see everything. And then for more information on our upcoming webinars, the global efforts here locally for the Raleigh Regional Association of Realtors, you can always visit our website, rrar.com/global. Stay well, stay safe, and stay successful. And thank you all for joining us.